Welcome to Grit, Growth, Grace podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Crissy Morgan.
And I'm Kim Gibbs. This space is for women who are ambitious, driven, and ready to make a meaningful impact.
We get it. Navigating success in male-dominated industries can feel very isolating, but you don't have to do it alone.
Here we'll talk about the real challenges, celebrate the wins, and give you practical tools to grow with confidence.
Because it's not just about making it to the top. It's about bringing others with you and thriving in the process.
Let's jump in and get started. Hi, Crissy.
Hi, Kim.
It's so good to see you.
I love seeing you again. Such a beautiful face.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so today I'm very excited to talk about this topic, and it is thriving in a male-oriented industries. The purpose of today's episode is going to really be about how to navigate that and how to have some strategies to recognize that you can thrive in that industry.
Absolutely. Have you ever walked into a meeting and immediately felt like you had to prove yourself? You and I, we've definitely both been there. In today's episode, we want to walk through the playbook for stepping into your power at work and how to navigate.
Yeah, it's going to be no fluff, no BS, just real talk about what it's like to either be a woman or somebody different in the room and how you can navigate that in industry.
It's pretty alarming if you think about it that women only make up about 14% of the engineering roles, only about 26% of computing type of jobs. But did you know that companies that have that type of diverse leadership are 21% more profitable? And that's not just a coincidence.
Not at all. Not at all. All right. Reality check, Crissy. Let's talk about what women face in male-dominated spaces. So, ladies and people that may not feel like they belong, you're not imagining obstacles. It's absolutely a reality. And I don't think it's necessarily an intentional reality. It's just a reality. So let's talk about 4 realities that every woman faces in these kind of spaces. One, and this one I do still to this day, constantly proving yourself. Number 2, I would say being left out of those conversations or being ignored. And both of those happen still to me. Lack of sponsorship and mentorship. I think it's much more challenging to find that when you are different, especially gender-wise. And then breaking into the actual boys club. Like, how do you break into the boys club but be true to yourself? So those are kind of some realities that we all sort of share.
Yeah, I could say early in my career, I'll never forget the day that I was sitting in a meeting and the cylinders on the roll stands for the steel mill, the gaskets kept blowing out on the roll chucks, and everyone's in the room. We're trying to brainstorm. We're trying to figure it out. And I asked how they were testing them. And then, they were just testing them under, normal air. And I asked them, I'm like, well, why aren't we testing them under the normal operating conditions under which, the pressures that they're experiencing? And, everyone just kind of laughed. They ignored me. They kept going on. 5 minutes later, the maintenance guy, he literally said the same thing. He's like, well, why don't we just hook it up and test it under normal operating conditions? And everyone's like high-fiving, yeah, we should do that. And I'm like, literally, I just said the same thing 5 minutes ago, and I was just like completely dismissed. And at the time, I was just like floored. I didn't know what to say. And, now when I'm in a meeting and we're brainstorming or throwing out ideas, I always make sure I follow up in that meeting, acknowledge the fact that I helped contribute to the solution, not looking for the credit, but just to say, hey, my voice is being heard. This was something that, that I brought up as well. And, Kim, what would you say, like, dealing with everything, like you said earlier, you constantly feel like you have to prove yourself. What are, some things that have happened to you where you feel like you had to prove yourself maybe even twice as hard?
Yeah, so I would say because of, I bought our business, Nick and I bought our business in our 20s. And when you're young and female, and at the time, and this is going to date me a little, the majority of our employees were boomers or just under a boomer. So definitely a different generation than myself. And I was insecure about being young and not, I'm all about working my butt off, but I'm not really having that confidence. So I realized that if I worked hard, I would gain respect, but the respect didn't change into like being able to influence or being able to say like, hey, let's make this outcome be a reality. What do you think? How can we get that done? It fell on deaf ears. And so that was really challenging. And because I was in my 20s, I didn't know that it shouldn't have been a do it once and walk away. It needed to be okay, this is what my goal is, organization. Let's talk about how we collectively can get there. Here's an idea I have. And then get feedback. So yeah, that was special.
Well, and when we're dealing with that, just a couple of really key takeaways are, yeah, you can put in the grind, you can put in the grit, you can do the work, you can gain the respect of being able to do it and the capability, but it really comes from the influence and having that visibility and being able to build relationships because relationships matter, and then owning the reality of it. And once you own that reality, it really gives you the power to rewrite it and own it and make it your own.
Yeah, and I think that allows you to live more authentically in your own leadership style. Owning
Mhm.
reality, absolutely. Like you can't get to where you want to go unless you know where you are. And in our circumstances, we're both leaders, and so we also have to know our audience. So and our teams.
Mhm.
And then in this case,
Absolutely.
they're usually male dominated. All right. So this section is going to be about really owning and defining your femininity in the workplace. It may feel like that seems like maybe a disadvantage, but I find that being who I am, whom I happen to be lean towards the femininity side, is a strength. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I do think that it can absolutely help you succeed because you bring something different to both communication and ideas and everything in hitting business objectives ultimately. So, Crissy, I'm going to share a little story about my life. And you know a little bit about this, but it really truly uh, is part of why I'm comfortable being female. And I do dress, I own the business. I could wear jeans and a ratty t-shirt every day if I wanted to, but I choose to dress professionally every day. And in feminine blouses and things like that, because I am that person. That's who I am. So my mom is the very front end of boomers. She was advocated for women all through her life and has been that way her whole life. And uh, as a consequence, when she had daughters, she definitely instilled in me that you cannot
Mm.
shrink. You have to say your truth. You have to be true, meaning you have to have core values and have integrity and what you say you mean. But all of that matters, and it matters at a higher level when you're a woman because it's not you're not going to live in your world. You're living in a world of everybody, and so you need to essentially be confident in yourself, willing to take risks and push. And because of that, she really really helped me believe that if I could show up as myself as a woman, I
Yeah.
could do anything. I can tell you, I definitely failed at that a lot of times, not because I was a woman, but because you fail when you try to be whom you are. But what I didn't realize was that just being true to who I am and pushing really hard doesn't always get you all the way there. That it's actually having the conversations and the way you can speak to people and the way you encourage people and you see them from their side. And that that took time. I mean, that took a lot of time. However, because I'm a woman, it's in my, it's in me, because that's how, I was raised this way, to try to meet people halfway, to try to make sure we're all moving forward together. It's kind of making sure your whole
Yeah.
household's running, right? And so it was just in me. And so that allowed me to be like, okay, yeah, I can totally be a girl, be a high-fiving girl and cheerlead all the way, and be an influential leader, as long as I'm recognizing who's on the other side of that.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely difficult, I've spent a lot of time early on just shrinking in until I realized that my voice really does matter. I'm capable, I belong here. I know what I'm doing, having that level of confidence and then helping others and inspiring others that you do too. You belong there. You belong at the table.
Yeah, and I know you've told me a couple of stories about having the confidence in knowing what you're saying and what you're talking about allows for you to be even more influenceable. Like, you're a metric driven person, that I know makes a significant difference, because you're able to share realities that prove you right, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I and again, it's okay to lean into that. Um, Early in my career, I was told you're just too emotional. You need to toughen up, and I didn't really get a lot of feedback other than that. There was really no context around it. Like, what do you mean by too emotional? And so I just really took that to heart, and I completely swung the pendulum the other way and removed as much emotion as possible in trying to improve my leadership skills. It was the carrot or the stick, that's what I was being taught. Um, and I spent the first 5 to 10 years of my career with that type of attitude because that's what the mentors that I was working with showed me. And honestly, when I look back, I'm like, that really stunted my career from being a better leader and developing good working relationships because I was looked at as being cold, uncaring, and people thought that I just didn't care about them. And it wasn't until I realized that I could lean into my femininity and say, it's okay to have that emotion. No, I'm not going to go out on the floor and break down and cry, but it's okay to be empathetic. That's what people need. They need you to be authentic. And, when they feel heard and understood, and I could show them that I did care about their situation, I did listen to them without judgment, and I gave them that time and that opportunity to talk to me, it really changed the trajectory of my leadership. And, I just spent all that time so early on trying to be the badass, trying to fit in, not being true to myself. And it just really um, slowed down the progress in my career and didn't allow my talents to really shine. And, I was like, I need to show up not just for myself, but I need to show up for other people,
Yeah.
especially other women or minorities. And when we're working in a male dominated field, a lot of times we're afraid to speak up. And it was just really lifting others up along the way. And I realized that you need to have that authenticity. You need to be empathetic. It's okay to have some emotion. People need to know that you're a human being.
Yeah, and I think uh, overall, authenticity, wow, authenticity wins, and your femininity can lead. Like, you can lead with empathy and femininity. And I feel like the most powerful women really, really, really own who they are. And all of them, not just a part of them. They don't own just the leadership part of them, and then they're a hot mess over here. No, they really own, like, I failed. Oops, that kind of feels crappy. Or, wow, I totally can identify with where you're at right now. I know it must be challenging, the situation you're in. And having that you can really lift up everybody.
Absolutely. And that's really how you thrive. One of the things you can do to really help yourself thrive.
Yep.
Next, we want to talk about building influence, credibility, and advocating for inclusion. We want to discuss moving beyond just the personal success and talk about true influence and lifting others, and how DEI isn't clarity, it's really more of a strategy. Kim, let's talk about a topic that's a little bit of a hot button out there right now: diversity, equality, and inclusion, along with building influence and credibility.
Yeah, it is kind of a hot button. And um, it's unfortunate because I feel like when you make an us and them, it doesn't make getting to business objectives faster. It makes it more challenging. And I can say from my own personal life and my own experience, I was a college athlete. It was one of the most influential leadership trainings I probably ever got. uh, was being a college athlete, and I would have never had the opportunity to be a college athlete if it hadn't been for Title IX. The women's rowing team does not bring in a lot of revenue to a university, so without Title IX, I know we wouldn't have had one, and I was lucky enough to be on one and be surrounded by very impactful, amazing people. And that's a program that is not DEI per se, but DEI is, as far as in a workplace, is more about inclusion and problem solving than it is about uh, us and them. And I really, you know, I think it's, I don't want to say silly because it's not silly that it's under attack, but it seems like it's going in the wrong direction in the context of hitting real business objectives. Yes.
So I understand, the whole Title IX thing, and can appreciate that, you share that story with us. And like I said, it's not just a women's issue. It's really a strategy for building stronger teams, and making sure you get the most qualified candidates. And what would you say about influence? We know it's more than just getting a seat at the table. It's about making sure other voices are heard too. But what would you say is one power move that you've really used to amplify the voices of women or underrepresented teammates in your workplace?
Yeah, so part of my business strategy and business objectives is to hire incredibly awesome people. So in the hiring process, we work really hard to find the best. If I can hire women, I absolutely do. That's not always the case, obviously. And our industry, it's not really like something that happens in high school where a bunch of women go and become machinists. But there are women. I have a couple of women machinists that work for me that are fantastic. And then the other thing I do is once people are onboarded and moving forward is we work as an organization to lift people up personally, both in personal development and leadership training. So anybody in our organization who shows drive and ambition and willing to follow our core values, which is positive and helpful, willing to solve problems, curiosity, those kind of things. I absolutely put them through training, through leadership training. We work to, create deliverables that are meaningful for their department, whatever I can do to support them to be a stronger and better leader. And in the last 24 months, I've probably put through, I don't know, half a dozen people. And of that half a dozen people, half have been women, and then more than half have been women and minorities, because those are the best, and they're ones that are interested in moving beyond where they are. So those are kind of the two things. And I do that consistently, and that. So
Yeah.
it's definitely helped my organization.
And that's wonderful to hear. And to say, a couple of the key takeaways are, it comes down to just the real influence, lifting others up, growing others, getting others what they need to be able to grow and expand, and just not advocating for yourself, but others on your team. And then DEI, it's not just about being nice. It's about being curious about other people's perspectives. It's about building the best team possible with the most qualified candidates and just really shining the light on finding the right people to meet the business objectives.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately growing others. We as leaders can't do it all. So we absolutely have to grow others, and we want
Mhm.
the best team possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with all of this talk about being in male dominated industries, um, we need to share our tactical power moves in a condensed little way. So what moves can you do today to make a significant impact? I can tell you, I've learned, just because I'm a super driven human, that I set a really, really, really high bar. And every single time I set a high bar, I will always strive for it, but that doesn't always feel good to everybody else. So I've recognized I have to leave the room with grace, and everything is fixable, and we can do what, failure is an opportunity, and moving forward is the goal, right? The business objectives is the goal. So in my personal life, I will always set a really high bar, but recognizing that I need to be graceful about it is absolutely been my biggest takeaway from being a woman in a male dominated industry. How about you? Tell us about your playbook.
All right, no more waiting. Let's get right into it. It's time to take some action. Let's talk about some power moves that we can do today. All right, let's get out the tactical playbook here. One, we want to build our brag book. We want to track our wins. We want to be able to speak objectively with facts and data. So it's hard to argue with data, and data beats opinion. So when we can show here's all the successes that we've had, that's going to help build the confidence. We want to network like a boss, build relationships because relationships matter, not just internally at your business or where you're currently working, but externally, in all facets of your life. And you want to stay sharp. You want to stay on top of your training and your personal growth. You want to make sure that you're continuing to learn and grow, whether it's in your field or current industry trends. So you want to stay on top of those types of things. Really focusing, especially for women, speaking with confidence. Be aware of how many times you're saying, well, I think, or I'm not sure. That just really shows that you don't have confidence. So speak what you're going to say or what you want to do. Lead with confidence. Don't say, I think this might work. Just say, I know that this is going to work, or let's give this a try. And then finding a sponsor. That's so key. Um, just grinding it out and working really hard is one thing, but you really want to get seen. Sponsors are going to advocate for you even when you're not in the room. And men can be allies in advocating for you. So not every male out there feels threatened by a confident and a secure woman. So it's okay to have male allies and look for those sponsors because you want to find someone that really sees your value and will advocate for you all the time, even when you're not in the room.
Yeah. And I would say that uh, that's paramount, being willing to see men as as able to be your sponsor, because it will absolutely make a positive impact. And I would say one of the things that I also think you can do, especially if you're in a leadership role with a lot of men around you, and I've found that this works very well for me, especially because I set such a high bar, is recognizing small wins in real time. So finding opportunities to give praise. If you can find an opportunity to give praise, um, it absolutely sets a tone that you're noticing the awesome things, so that when you do have a accountability meeting or a clarity meeting, you're not being put in that box of, oh, she's just being a bitch, or she's so demanding. So I definitely think recognizing the small wins is a great way to uplift your entire team, but also individuals in any circumstance. And then leadership isn't about performing a role. It's about really owning who you are and lifting all of those around you up. I know from my own experience, both in my collegiate sport and work, that my role isn't any more or less important than anybody else's. And unless we're all rowing together in the same direction with the same objective, it's not going to matter. So lifting other people up to be the best they can will ultimately mean that we all win.
Absolutely. I mean, the bottom line here, as women in male-dominated fields, no one's going to hand you a seat at the table. You have to go for it.
Yeah, and I would say own your femininity, build your influence, but build it as you and ask for what you want. I think the older I get, the more and more I realize that the people that get what they want actually ask for what they want. They don't say, oh, I think I could probably do without it, or I think I'm okay. They ask for it. They say, hey, I need this done, and this is why, or I need this done, period. So yeah, I think lean into who you are, lead with your femininity, and get it done. We would love to hear from you. So if you have a story to share that you know either being different made a positive impact, or you were afraid to take the action and now you are not, please do and let us know. Share with us.
Yeah, and we really hope you enjoyed this episode, and join us next time for when we talk about imposter syndrome and how to flip it into your superpower.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for spending time with us on Grit, Growth, Grace podcast. We hope today's episode gave you new insights and a spark to start planning with purpose.
Remember, growth happens one step at a time. Take something from today, whether it's a tool, a quote, or just a fresh perspective, and put it into action this week.
And don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who's ready to plan their way to success.
We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media, like and follow, or just let us know how you're taking charge of your goals.
Until next time, keep building with grit, growing with intention, and leading with grace. We'll see you soon.